Hi, my name is Brett. I am a software developer who recently stopped using AI for coding at work after 18 months of using it in earnest. I shared how it made me feel, why I decided to stop using it, largely in part because it was contributing to my mental health deteriorating significantly and the erosion of my skills as a critical thinker, problem solver, and coder. It's been 3 weeks now. I thought I would share how it's going, how I'm feeling, what the results have been, and some various things that I've heard from people who have watched and listened to the video. First off, I am in a much better mental state. I cannot overstate how much better each workday feels, how it feels when the day is over, to have exerted my brain in a way that is challenging and interesting and feels like I actually did something rather than prompt the coding harness to do the thing. So much more satisfying. I feel closer to the code, and as a result of being closer to the code and not having that distance, I notice a lot more slop, a lot more code that is repeated, that could be dried up. Dry, do not repeat yourself. It's an initialism in coding that is a really important part of coding. And so I'm in there cleaning things up, making things better, leaving the campsite in a better state than when I found it, getting things done at an acceptable rate that feels good to me, and no seeming problems from other people about my speed or quality or the quantity of work I'm doing. I definitely think the quality has gone up, like I said about the cleaning up the code and the refactoring. And I had a feeling that this is what would happen. That's part of why I decided to stop using it, because for my personal coding projects, it was something where I realized, oh yeah, I still love doing this, and this is really fun, and it makes me feel good to do. And when I'm enjoying something, I do better work. I think that's at the underlying principle for me, is that when people are in good mental, if you do knowledge work and you are in a good mental state and you're on a team with other people who are also, they care about learning, growing the craft, the skill, and are in a good mental state, in a place where they can think and problem solve without fear of being fired or laid off or being crushed by unrealistic expectations or whatever it is. Like when you have that place where you're working and you're in a good place mentally, you're having fun, like that's what's required, I think, for knowledge work. And fun is kind of this subjective thing. For me, fun is like building a thing and making it better and getting feedback and improving it. So, fun is obviously subjective, but for me, coding is fun. And coding by hand, I'm really enjoying. So I'm enjoying work more. When the day comes to an end, it's almost like that feeling of going to the gym or going for a run or doing some sort of workout where it's challenging and maybe there's a little bit of friction to get started. Maybe you don't feel like you want the easy path out. You want to just sit there and relax and lie on the couch. But once you do it, and I know this from having various phases where I'm really into running and hiking, is once you're in it, it's amazing. You love it. And even if it's challenging or you're sweating a lot or you're really tired, is that it feels good and it's rewarding. And that's something that coding by hand without AI is analogous to for me. And realizing that, oh yeah, I have to do my reps, I have to use my brain, and it's significantly more difficult to open the text editor and implement something and understand the code that's already been written than it is to just prompt the coding harness. 100%. Code review is difficult. I'd say it's impossible at the quantity of code that the coding harnesses output and the rate at which they do it. But it's like a different way of engaging. Code review is your you're like an editor for something someone wrote, whereas coding by hand is you are the author of the text, and the writing is very difficult. Not to say that being an editor isn't difficult or challenging, but it's a different way of using your brain. And I really love the feeling of using my brain for writing code, so that's been good. I haven't been fired yet. That video went weirdly viral, the first one. It has over 500,000 views, and I know some people I work with have seen it. Hello, if you're watching this one. But yeah, I haven't been. The axe hasn't dropped, but I'm I'm not worried about it. And if it does, then that's also fine too. So, fully prepared and not worried about it, because I think something that I realized over these last few weeks is that my knowledge, my skills, my ability, my care of the craft and quality are still very useful things, regardless of what I may tell myself sometimes or what certain people in comments may say, is that there are other factors that are important other than just quantity, which you could also substitute with speed. And I think that remains to be seen over the long run what will happen, and I'm certainly open to various possibilities of, my utility in this industry without using AI. But I think as of today, still, and knowing what the coding harnesses are capable of with the LLMs, still a useful player on the field. So that's that. I've been coding more in my free time and in different ways because I've kind of sparked that joy. Spark joy. That's funny. I don't know what Marie Kondo thinks about AI. That would be interesting to know. But because that fire is lit again, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm gonna code things to solve some of my problems, and doing it by hand and learning, and it feels really good, and I'm having fun. And I made this little local app I run on my computer that lets me basically subscribe to podcast feeds and download the MP3s so I can put them on my MP3 player. And that was really fun to make. And I coded some other stuff just for fun. And yeah, that's been like such a little joy to take an hour or two to solve a problem I have, and reminds me of the utility of coding and why it's fun, and learning things. So like, for example, for that app that I made for downloading podcasts, I'm using Dino, and I'm using Preact and Vite. These are all programming things for the web, and TypeScript. And getting this error, like I worked on it one night, I woke up the next day, and I was getting this error I wasn't getting the night before, which was weird and frustrating. And I think historically, I would go and I would just ask AI. But because I'm not using AI, I sit there and I read the error message, I reread it, I search online, I try some things, do some trial and error. Maybe it takes me 5 or 10 minutes, figure it out, fix it, learned a thing or two, like feel like I solved a problem that I ran into, and that feels good. Now I know for next time, how to configure a thing or set a thing or whatever the problem was. So yeah, I think that's something where at the beginning of the week, or at the beginning of the 3 weeks, like that first week, it was like, this is hard work, and my muscles aren't conditioned to do it. But then, get going, writing tests, writing the code, implementing it, cleaning things up, and oh yeah, I've done this for a long time, and this is fun, and it's like riding a bike. But then those times where I get stuck or I'm not sure how to do something, the easy thing would be to just ask an LLM. But instead, what I've been doing is going and searching online, reading the manual, trying things out, experimenting, and I end up learning quite a lot more. And that's something without a doubt, I've learned more in the last 3 weeks about certain dependencies, about like software dependencies, certain parts of the code base, in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last 3 months. Because I noticed when I was using the LLMs, it's doing the problem solving or the research or whatever it is and implementing the solution. I'm just kind of saying, oh, build this thing. And it feels really good to be learning things. I like learning things, and that's a real joy to me. So I'm really glad about that. And then in week 2 and week 3, it's like, that's not even that feeling of, oh, I want to reach for the easy thing. It's like, it kind of goes away. It just feels like I'm coding like I did 5 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever. So, yeah, I've got a friend, longtime friend, multiple-time colleague, who we stay in touch. And he was saying that he feels similar effects on his mental health and well-being from using LLMs at work and leaning pretty hard into it. And we've been talking about it for the last year. And he was going to do an experiment for a week and see what it feels like to not use AI coding tools. And it seems like from what we've stayed in touch and talked about, seems like that's going well. So I'm really glad to hear about that. And just in general, I think hopefully with these videos and talking about it is that it's not that I think it's important that people think about how they use technology and how it makes them feel versus what the results are, and explore, are there ways within how you use these tools, specifically AI coding tools, are there ways you can use it differently that help you grow or help you be in a better mental state? And if so, try it out and reflect on that and see how it feels, an experiment, especially if you have the ability or flexibility within your workplace or your personal projects or whatever it is to do that. So for me, it's like, okay, I know that, or I'm willing to take the risk of basically saying I won't use this thing and make these videos about it and take that risk and sort of see how it feels, because I think to me that's much more important to understand how this feels. But for other people, it could be, well, I was going, maybe someone's like, I've been going full agentic, just, feed it the tickets and just barely review the code, and maybe now they're like, maybe I'll write some code by hand, right? Or maybe I'll use it for certain things. And I think that's interesting and important. And how we use the tools is tools and utilities and technologies. I think that's a really interesting part of the conversation. And for me and my personality, I'm pretty simple, and you might say extreme. I don't think of it as extreme, but for example, I use a flip phone because I understand the utility of the smartphone, but it's too much for me, and I'm not able to use it in a way that feels aligned with my values and that almost feels responsible. It's too much. It's too powerful, right? to have this smartphone with access to everything. And I'll talk more about that in the future. But I don't drink because that is something where I struggle with being able to do it responsibly, or what feels responsible to me, right? And I think that for me, it's easy. It's consistently easiest to just cut something out, right? And say, I just won't use this thing. And rather than say, I'll use it a little bit or whatever. And usually there's good reasons, but also it's part of my personality. So they're usually, support one another, those decisions, and the reasons why, and my personality. So yeah, that's something on my mind. I like being closer to the code. I'm having fun coding. It's a really important reminder to me. I started coding not as a job, not as a career. I continued to, throughout my life, code because it's fun. And then to be reminded again and again, oh yeah, I like this. I love this craft. It's so fun and enjoyable and important to me. There's one thing I wanted to mention. Cal Newport, he is an author, and I think he's a professor of computer science, but he's written a bunch of books, and I've read his books throughout my adult life as they come out, and they're always very meaningful. He wrote a book called Deep Work, about how you need this uninterrupted chunks of time to do knowledge work. He wrote a book called Digital Minimalism, which is a lot, really influenced how I think about using technologies. And he wrote a book most recently called Slow Productivity. And that name comes from the slow food movement, and there are other kind of slow movements. And I think in his book, Slow Productivity, it's kind of centered around these three things. 1, do fewer things. 2, work at a natural pace. 3, obsess over quality. Those three things, and the whole book talks about each of those. I think about those things a lot for my own projects. I try to advocate for those things at where I work. And I actually think, when I say all those three things out loud, I actually think using AI coding tools is largely antithetical to each of those three things. And I think each of those three things are actually the key to really good software. And that's my goal, is to build really good software. My goal is not to just like kind of coast at a job. My goal is not to just like do the easiest thing or like just get it done. I really want to build high quality software that's enjoyable to work in, enjoyable to use, that is useful for people. That's always been what I'm trying to do. Work at a natural pace. AI makes you work at an unnatural pace. Okay? So unless you're using it for like very select things, it makes you work at an unnatural pace. And that feeling of just like one more prompt or just keep going, or that focus on the quantity and the speed, I think is actually antithetical to doing fewer things. Because I think when your software does fewer things, or you're focused on what you're able to actually achieve and polish and make really good, I think that leads to better software. Like the best software I use is not about having all of the features in the world. It's about having a really great user experience and being performant. And I'm typically not like, oh, I wish I could use this one thing, but I just wish I had this other feature or whatever. And then obsess over quality. That is something I consistently notice from the user experience in the UI, so like what the humans interface with, but also in the code that largely agentic code bases produce, is that the quality dips significantly. I see this in the code that I'm looking at every day at work. I see this in the software that I use, is that the quality is dipping. And so I really like what Cal Newport has to say in Slow Productivity. I think that's something I continue to go back to. And I really love those things. Work at a natural pace, do fewer things, obsess over quality. And that is just, it resonates so much with me. So I wanted to share that. And then finally, I've been reading a book by Cory Doctorow. It's his newest book. It's called The Reverse Centaur's Guide to Life After AI: How to Think About Artificial Intelligence Before It's Too Late. Cory Doctorow, I've been reading his books for over a decade. He's a writer of nonfiction and fiction and prolific blogger, and he wrote this book, Shitification, that pretty widely known, that I think came out last year. I read that, really enjoyed it. I've been reading this, and it's basically his book thinking and talking about AI. And so far, I'm enjoying it. I will definitely share more thoughts in depth on it. And his kind of position, or the idea of it, and the idea of the reverse centaur is like, are you utilizing the tool, or is the tool kind of utilizing you and the tool or the technology? So like he gives an example of he uses an AI tool, a local AI tool on his computer to mass transcribe 40 podcast episodes so he can find a quote without having to re-listen to those episodes. And then he can just search the transcription. He says that's reverse centaur, where he utilizes the tool, and but it's not like doing his writing for him or whatever. And the opposite would be like a factory belt that moves at an inhuman pace and pushes people to the brink, or people like working in Amazon warehouses who don't have time to take breaks to go to the bathroom, and these types of things. So yeah, he's comparing the two, contrasting the two, talking about the bubble and the economic bubble that this is all creating. And I'm still pretty early in it, so but just wanted to share that, and curious if anyone else read it and what you think, and if you had any takeaways from it. But yeah, I'll definitely follow up on that. And then finally, I want to talk about what's next. So I've got a lot of ideas. I want to talk a lot about the craft of software engineering, and maybe there will be some videos and screencasts about programming, like actually writing code and making screencasts like I have in the past. I want to continue to do videos where I talk. I'm interested in interviewing people. I think that would be really cool, like almost like a podcast. And talking about these experiences, how it feels, hearing from people, and just exploring alternative ways of existing as a software developer today, in today's era, without being like going full AI. And that's something that I want to explore. For me, on a personal level, it'll be, okay, how can I exist without using AI? Because I don't think it's worth it for me. But that doesn't mean that it's, that there aren't people who use it in different ways, and ways that, yeah, I'm interested in hearing about and talking about. And so I don't know exactly what form this will all take, but I have ideas for writing and like a podcast of sorts or something. And what I'd be interested to hear from you is like, what would you be interested in hearing about? What are there topics or questions or ideas or thoughts on your mind that you would be interested in hearing about? Because I would love to know. I do not keep up with the news relating to technology and AI, so I cannot make or speak to the latest things happening in the world of it. I have never followed it. I cannot. That is, it is too much for me, and I'm so I can't react to what's happening, but I can certainly share my experiences and talk with other people. And I think that's something at the core of all of this is I want to be talking about humans making software for humans, focusing on quality, focusing on the craft of software engineering, and see what happens. So that's it. 3 weeks in, feeling good. I'd say going pretty well. And I hope you're doing well. All right. Thank you. Bye.